Chapter 1. The Outcasts of Arido. In the sprawling metropolis of New Terra, amidst its soaring skyscrapers and bustling energy, lay a forgotten district known as Arido. Once a vibrant hub of commerce and community life, Arido had fallen into disrepair and desolation over the centuries, its buildings crumbling and overgrown with the relentless encroachment of nature. It had become a place of myths and shadows, often whispered about in the more prosperous parts of the city but rarely visited, known mostly for the tales of misfortune that seemed to cling to it like the vines on its old, battered walls. At the heart of these tales was the story of Mara, a young widow, and her child Lila. They lived on the fringes of Arido, in a small, dilapidated house that had once been cheerful and welcoming. Mara's husband, Joran, had been a scientist working on agricultural innovations intended to help New Terra's expanding population. His sudden and mysterious death had left Mara and Lila isolated, as the community, steeped in superstition, began to whisper of a curse that they said clung to Mara and her lineage. Mara, with her bright, sharp mind and once hopeful spirit, found herself ostracized from the society that Joran had tried to aid. The local belief was that the misfortune that befell Mara's family was contagious, perhaps even hereditary, and as such, she and her daughter were shunned. The widow's pleas for work, support, or even companionship were met with doors slammed in her face and windows shuttered as she passed. The curse they feared was not of her making, but it was her cross to bear. Despite the harsh realities of her life, Mara was determined to provide for Lila. She cultivated a small garden from the hard, unyielding soil of Arido, the plants struggling to survive in the polluted air that drifted from the industries of the nearby city. Lila, a bright child of 7, helped her mother as much as she could, her laughter a rare sound that sometimes stirred the old neighborhood to life. The isolation was both a curse and a blessing. The tales of misfortune kept the curious and the cruel at bay, but also any potential aid. Mara taught Lila to read and write using old books Joran had collected, turning their small, dimly lit kitchen into a classroom. Each night, under the light of a flickering candle, Mara would read stories of distant worlds and heroes who overcame great odds, hoping to instill in Lila a sense of hope that the world outside their door could not offer. One evening, as the sunset painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, a stranger arrived in Arido. He was a human, unlike most of the city's denizens who were of various species from across the galaxy. The man, dressed in a simple traveler's cloak, made his way to Mara's door with a purpose that had not been seen in Arido for many years. His arrival marked the first break in the monotonous despair of the district in a long time. Mara watched from behind the tattered curtains as the stranger approached. Her initial instinct was to hide, as she had done so many times before, but something about the man's demeanor suggested he was different. Perhaps it was the way he moved with a determination, or the way he looked around, not with the fear or disdain she had come to expect from outsiders, but with a kind of resolve. With a cautious curiosity, she opened the door a crack, her voice steady but wary. "What brings you to Arido? Few come here without reason, and fewer still find what they are looking for." The man stopped, his eyes meeting Mara's through the narrow opening of the door. "My name is Elian," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "I'm here because I believe you need help, and I think I can offer it. I've heard of the hardships faced by the people of Arido and of your particular situation. I'm here to help, if you'll let me." Mara's skepticism warred with the flicker of hope that his words kindled in her heart. It had been so long since anyone had offered to help without wanting something in return. Could she afford to trust this stranger, or was her desperation clouding her judgment? Elian sensed her hesitation and offered a gentle smile. "I do not ask for trust outright, Mara, only for the chance to earn it." It was then, with the night drawing in and the stars beginning to dot the vast, dark canvas of the sky, that Mara made a decision that would change not just her and Lila's lives, but would unravel the mysteries of Arido itself. She opened the door wider, stepping back to let Elian enter their small world, her heart uncertain but open, ready to face whatever truths his presence might bring to light. Chapter 2. Elian's Mission. As Elian crossed the threshold into Mara's modest home, the air seemed to shift, as if the small space itself was aware of the significance of this moment. He carefully removed his cloak, hanging it by the door, and looked around the dimly lit room with an expression of understanding and sadness. Mara, watching him cautiously, noted the way his eyes lingered on the simple furnishings and the makeshift toys lying in a corner, remnants of Lila's day at play. "Thank you for letting me in," Elian began, turning back to face Mara with an earnest gaze. "I know that trust is not easily given, especially here, where you've faced nothing but rejection and fear from others. But I am here not just on a whim, but on a purpose driven by knowledge of your husband Joran's work and its unfinished legacy." Mara felt a pang in her heart at the mention of Joran. "My husband's work was meant to benefit everyone. Instead, it brought us nothing but sorrow after his death," she replied, her voice tinged with bitterness. "What do you know of his work, and why does it matter now?" Elian nodded solemnly, pulling a small device from his pocket. Before Joran died, he was close to a breakthrough in agricultural technology that could have revolutionized food production on New Terra, making it more sustainable and less reliant on interstellar imports. Unfortunately, his research was buried, feared lost after the tragedy that befell him. However, recent discoveries have led us to believe that his research survived and that you might hold the key to unlocking it. Mara listened intently, a mix of surprise and suspicion swirling within her. "You believe I have something of his? I don't have any of his research. After his death, everything was taken, sealed, or locked away by those who called him a fool." "That may be true," Elian conceded, "but we think there's something more. Joran was cleverer than they gave him credit for. He knew the risks of what he was dealing with, especially working under the scrutiny of those who didn't always share his vision. We believe he might have left his research with the person he trusted most. You mean he might have left it with me?" Mara interjected, a sense of clarity dawning on her. "But how? Where?" "That's what I'm here to help you find out," Elian replied, setting his device on the table. It flickered to life, projecting a holographic interface of complex codes and data. This device can detect encrypted data signatures that were unique to Joran's work. If he left anything behind, this will help us find it. Over the next few days, Elian and Mara searched the house, moving through dusty rooms and sifting through old belongings, guided by the device's intermittent beeps and flashes. Lila watched with curious eyes, often asking Elian about the strange tool that lit up like the stars. Elian, patient and kind, explained the process in simple terms she could understand, making her giggle with tales of secret codes and hidden treasures. Their search eventually led them to the attic, a place Mara rarely visited. It was there, hidden beneath a floorboard, that Elian's device finally screamed to life with a series of urgent beeps. With shaking hands, Mara helped him pry open the concealed compartment, revealing a small, dust-covered data chip. "This must be it," Elian said, holding the chip carefully. This chip could contain all of Joran's final research that could still change the world. The discovery was not just about the potential revival of Joran's work, but also a moment of vindication for Mara. It was proof that her husband's dreams and aspirations were more than just the ramblings of a man chasing fantasies, as some had claimed. With the chip secured, Elian and Mara planned their next steps. They needed to analyze the data, understand its applications, and find a way to bring Joran's visions to life. But more importantly, they needed to do it together, as a team, facing whatever challenges that might come, bolstered by the knowledge that they were no longer alone in their fight. As they set to work in the small, cramped space of the attic, with the chip's data slowly unraveling on Elian's device, a new sense of hope kindled in Mara's heart. For the first time since Joran's death, she felt the weight of isolation lifting. They were on the brink of something great, something that could not only clear her family's name, but also benefit the whole of New Terra. And in this mission, she had found an unexpected ally, one who brought not just help, but the promise of a new beginning. With the data chip discovered, Elian and Mara meticulously began the process of decoding and analyzing the information stored within. It was a slow and arduous task, requiring patience and precision, as the data was encrypted with complex security measures likely intended to protect it from falling into the wrong hands. Night after night, they worked together in Mara's cramped attic, their only light the glow of Elian's device as it displayed strings of code and diagrams that slowly began to make sense. As they decoded the files, they uncovered more than just agricultural techniques and theories. Joran had compiled detailed plans for creating sustainable ecosystems using advanced genetic modifications and nanotechnology technologies that could transform barren environments into fertile lands. His research was revolutionary, poised to address the food shortages and ecological crises that plagued many parts of New Terra. But Mara and Elian quickly realized why such groundbreaking work might have been suppressed or deemed too dangerous. In the wrong hands, the technology could be used for ecological warfare or monopolizing food production in ways that could devastate economies and populations. Determined to honor Joran's original vision, Mara and Elian discussed their next steps. They needed expert help to bring Joran's theories to fruition, and they needed to ensure the technology would be used ethically and responsibly. The task was daunting, and the risks were high. If discovered, they could attract the attention of powerful entities with less altruistic intentions. Chapter 3. Bringing the Vision to Life. Despite the risks, the potential benefits of implementing Joran's work spurred them on. Elian reached out to his network of trusted former colleagues who shared their commitment to ethical science and innovation. Together, they formed a clandestine group dedicated to developing the first prototype of Joran's agricultural system. The group set up a hidden laboratory in an abandoned sector of Arido, away from prying eyes and under the guise of a generic research project. Security was paramount, as the implications of their work became increasingly apparent. The team worked tirelessly, translating Joran's theories into practical applications. They engineered seed varieties that could thrive in arid, non-arable lands and developed nanofertilizers that enhanced plant growth without the ecological damage associated with traditional agriculture. As their work progressed, the initial results were beyond promising. They were transformative. The prototype fields, once barren stretches of land, bloomed with life, yielding crops that could potentially feed thousands. The success of the project brought a new sense of urgency and excitement to the team, but it also heightened the stakes. They were aware that the unveiling of such a project could disrupt global agricultural markets and challenge existing power structures. Mara, witnessing the fruits of her husband's legacy, felt a mix of pride and apprehension. Her home became a frequent meeting place for the team, where strategies were debated and plans were drawn. Lila, now more aware of her mother's mission, watched with wide-eyed wonder as the discussions unfolded. She understood that her father's work was important, a secret capable of changing the world. As the project neared completion, the need to go public became unavoidable. The team planned to present their findings at the Global Science Summit, where representatives from all sectors of society, political, scientific, and commercial would recognize the significance of the breakthrough. Preparations for the summit were meticulous, with every member of the team aware of the presentation's potential impact. The day of the summit arrived, and the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Mara, chosen as the spokesperson, stepped onto the stage, her presence commanding the attention of everyone in the vast auditorium. With clarity and conviction, she unveiled the results of their project, presenting data, images, and testimonials from the initial trials. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The audience, consisting of the world's leading scientists, policymakers, and entrepreneurs, was captivated by the potential to revolutionize food production and environmental restoration. However, as Mara concluded her presentation, it was clear that the path forward would be fraught with challenges. The implications of such technology were vast and complex, raising ethical, political, and economic questions that needed careful consideration. As debates and discussions ensued, Mara and her team were thrust into a whirlwind of negotiations and dialogues. As the summit progressed, Mara found herself at the center of a vortex of interest from various global stakeholders. There were those who saw the potential for tremendous good in her team's work. Nations suffering from food shortages and NGOs dedicated to ecological restoration were particularly supportive. However, there were also powerful agribusiness conglomerates and lobbyists who viewed the innovations as a threat to their established markets and influence. These entities approached Mara with a mix of offers and thinly veiled threats, attempting to sway her team's direction or to control the technology for their own ends. Navigating these waters required all of Mara's wit and diplomacy. She was grateful for Elian's steady support and the solid loyalty of their team, who remained committed to their ethical principles. They formed strategic alliances with like-minded organizations and governments, creating a coalition to support the responsible development and deployment of their agricultural systems. As the summit came to a close, The team had laid the groundwork for a series of pilot programs in several developing countries. These programs were designed not just to test and refine the agricultural technologies, but also to ensure that the local communities would benefit directly and sustainably. Mara knew that the success of these pilots would be crucial not only for the future of their project, but for proving that science and technology could be wielded as tools for global equity and environmental healing. Chapter 4: Seeds of Change. The months following the summit were a whirlwind of activity. Mara and her team traveled to the pilot locations, working closely with local farmers, scientists, and community leaders to implement the new technologies. Each site was chosen for its unique challenges and needs, providing a robust testing ground for the seed varieties and nanofertilizers developed from Jorn's research. In the arid plains of sub-Saharan Africa, they introduced drought-resistant crops that could thrive in harsh conditions, bringing lush greenery to parched lands. In the flood-prone river deltas of Southeast Asia, their plants featured root systems designed to stabilize soil and absorb excess water, reducing the impact of floods. With each success, the team refined their techniques, always mindful of the ecological balance and the need for crops to fit seamlessly into local agricultural practices. Mara documented everything, from the initial planting to the harvest, capturing the tangible benefits of their work. The yields were impressive, not only in terms of quantity but also in the quality and nutritional value of the produce. More importantly, the projects were community-led, with training programs and workshops that ensured local farmers could maintain and replicate the technologies long after the team had moved on. As news of the pilot program's successes spread, Mara's initiative received a surge of international support. What had begun as a small, secretive project under the shadow of skepticism had grown into a global movement, redefining what was possible in the fight against hunger and environmental degradation. However, the journey was not without its setbacks. The team faced logistical challenges, political hurdles, and occasional resistance from traditionalists who feared change. Yet, each obstacle was met with the same perseverance and integrity that had started their journey. Mara, once seen as the widow of a discredited scientist, had become a symbol of resilience and innovation, a leader whose vision was helping to shape a better world. In the twilight of her career, Mara established the New Terra Institute of Agricultural Innovation, a nonprofit dedicated to continuing research and spreading sustainable agricultural technologies worldwide. The institute became a hub for scientists, policymakers, and activists committed to using technology for the public good. Lila, grown into a brilliant young woman under her mother's guidance, joined the institute as a researcher. Together, they pushed forward the boundaries of what their family had started, ensuring that Jorn's legacy would endure. The story of Mara, Lila, and their journey from the fringes of society to the forefront of global change was not just a tale of scientific achievement, but a testament to the power of human spirit and empathy. Their work touched millions of lives, turning barren landscapes into fields of gold and green, and proving that even in the darkest of times, a single spark of hope can illuminate the world. As Mara looked out over the lush fields once thought barren, she knew that their journey was a message to the world, that with courage, collaboration, and compassion, humanity could overcome its greatest challenges. The cursed widow and her child, once left all alone, had indeed transformed the universe, leaving it a little brighter than they had found it. As Mara stood overlooking the thriving fields, her mind replayed the memories of struggles and triumphs that had led to this moment. The transformation of barren lands into flourishing farms was a testament to her life's work, but more than that, it was a beacon of hope for future generations. Her vision had transcended beyond the immediate application of Jorn's research. It had sparked a global movement towards sustainable agriculture and ecological awareness. The establishment of the New Terra Institute of Agricultural Innovation had become the cornerstone of this movement. Under Mara's guidance, the institute not only researched new agricultural techniques but also focused on education and policy advocacy, ensuring that the knowledge they generated was accessible and implemented worldwide. Workshops and training sessions became regular events, drawing participants from all over the globe, eager to learn and spread sustainable practices in their own communities. Lila, now a prominent researcher at the institute, was pioneering her own projects, focusing on the integration of biotechnology and traditional farming techniques. Her work, inspired by her father's legacy and driven by her mother's resilience, aimed at creating genetically adapted plants that could thrive in extreme climatic conditions. Her innovations were crucial in areas hit hardest by climate change, where traditional crops failed to provide sufficient yields. The impact of their work was visible not only in the fields, but also in the revitalization of communities that had once struggled with food insecurity and poverty. Farmers, equipped with new technologies and sustainable practices, were able to triple their yields, sell their produce at fair market prices, and invest back into their communities. Schools, healthcare facilities, and local businesses flourished, supported by the stability and prosperity brought about by improved agriculture. Mara's journey also sparked a shift in global policies. With the undeniable success of the pilot programs and the widespread implementation of the Institute's technologies, governments and international bodies were prompted to re-evaluate their agricultural and environmental policies. Investments in sustainable agriculture research surged, along with the establishment of global guidelines for the ethical use of biotechnology in farming. Throughout these developments, Mara maintained a humble perspective. She knew that each success was built on the foundations laid by countless others, and every setback was a lesson in disguise. Her resolve never wavered, driven by a deep-seated belief in humanity's capacity to adapt and improve. She often shared these reflections in her speeches and interviews, emphasizing the collaborative nature of their achievements. As years turned into decades, Mara began to step back from her daily responsibilities at the Institute, trusting in the new generation of leaders she had mentored to carry forward the mission. In her retirement, she penned a memoir titled Seeds of Hope, From Ruins to Rebirth, which became an inspirational bestseller. In it, she chronicled her journey from the desolate ruins of Arido to the lush expanses of the new Terra farms, highlighting the pivotal moments and key figures who had shaped her path. Mara's legacy was not just in the crops that grew or the technologies developed. It was in the changed lives, the empowered farmers, the communities freed from the grip of hunger and poverty, and the young scientists and activists inspired by her story to continue the work. Her life had come full circle, from isolation and rejection to love, acceptance, and profound impact. In the twilight of her life, Mara often visited the fields that once stood barren, now bustling with life and activity. Each visit was a reminder of the power of perseverance and the importance of dreaming big. Surrounded by the fruits of her labor, Mara knew that while her time as a leader had passed, the seeds she had planted would continue to grow, spreading shade and sustenance far beyond her time. A true transformation of the universe, born from the courage and love of a woman once deemed cursed. As the sun set over the vibrant fields of New Terra, casting long shadows and bathing the lush greenery in a warm, golden light, Mara walked slowly along the edge of a field, her steps measured and her eyes reflective. The air was filled with the rich scent of earth and growth, a testament to decades of toil and triumph. Beside her, her grown daughter, Lila, now leading the Institute, shared the quiet moment, both aware of the profound journey that had brought them here. Mara stopped and turned to face the horizon, where the sky met the land in a perfect line, a symbol of the infinite possibilities that lay beyond. She felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that her life's work had not only transformed the physical landscape, but also the lives of countless individuals who now had a future filled with hope. "Look how far we've come," Mara said softly, her voice tinged with emotion. Lila took her hand, squeezing it gently, her eyes filled with admiration and gratitude. "We did it, Mom. You did it," Lila responded, her voice strong and sure. "You've given the world so much more than food and green fields. You've given it a new way to dream, to grow, to be better." Mara smiled, her gaze still fixed on the distant horizon. "It was never just about us, was it? It was about everyone who dared to believe that change was possible, that the curse was just a challenge waiting to be overcome." As they turned to walk back through the fields, the voices of farmers returning home after a day's work carried on the breeze, a melody of laughter and chatter that spoke of community and joy. Children ran through the paths, their laughter mingling with the rustling of the crops, a beautiful symphony of life and energy. Mara knew her story was but one of many threads woven into the tapestry of human endeavor, each thread vital, each story a note in the grand symphony of life. Her legacy was secure, not in the monuments or accolades, but in the simple, everyday lives of those she had touched, in the sustainable practices that had become second nature to the communities around the globe, and in the spirit of innovation that thrived at the institute she had founded. In her final years, Mara often spoke at conferences and seminars, not about the technology or the techniques, but about the spirit of perseverance, the importance of community, and the profound impact of caring for one another. Her words inspired a new generation of leaders, thinkers, and dreamers, all united in the pursuit of a better world. When Mara finally passed, it was peacefully, in the small house where it all began, surrounded by family and friends. Her departure was felt across the globe, with tributes pouring in from all corners of the world, each recounting tales of how the cursed widow and her child had sown seeds of change that blossomed into a legacy of hope and renewal. Lila continued her mother's work, driving the Institute to new heights, always guided by Mara's principles. The story of Mara, the cursed widow who transformed the universe, lived on, a beacon to all that even in the darkest of times, there is light to be found, if only one is brave enough to seek it. And so, as the stars twinkled above the fertile fields of New Terra, they seemed to whisper Mara's name, a lasting reminder that in a universe vast and wide, the human spirit's capacity for love, resilience, and transformation knows no bounds.